I get this question all the time, but it's always by men, and it's, where are all the feminists? So I'll post something online, and the men almost get angry. They're like, well, you created this problem. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, first of all, I didn't. And now you're talking about feminists from 1960s. Look, so which layers? I feel like there's different layers. There's different types of feminists. I actually wouldn't even consider myself a feminist. I'm just literally stepping up and protecting women and girls, which really is the role of any man, real man out there. Because remember back in the day, women and children first. Where did that expression go to? Because I don't see that happening nowadays.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. Thanks for tuning in today. Today, my guest is April Hutchinson. I did a podcast with April earlier. It went out on October 18th. That's when it was launched. So she's a power lifter. And if you watch that one, you'll hear all about her controversy with men in women's sports and what she's done to be an advocate for women-only sports. She's quite a devoted and energetic and brave individual. Today, our podcast, we discussed sports a little bit. We discussed Alberta's policies on gender that are changing to be really an example for the rest of Canada on how to rein in these gender affirming care and all of the things that go with that. And we talked about her struggles with addiction and how she overcame that, and a little bit on diet, because I love to talk about diet. I love to talk about the carnivore diet. So that's what we talked about. Anyway, enjoy. Hi, April.
Hi, Tammy.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Oh, good. So, April Hutchinson, we had a podcast. How long ago now was it? Maybe 6 months or longer?
Yeah, I think it was
a while ago.
Yeah, it was back in April, I think. Yes.
Oh, okay. And we talked about your journey as a power lifter and advocating for women's rights in sports. And now you'll have to update everybody and tell us where you are in this time.
Yeah, so lots has actually happened since I spoke to you last. I think currently I was still just speaking out against the male powerlifter in the Canadian Powerlifting Union. I don't believe I was suspended at that time. So
yeah, I think you were.
Oh, was I?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, because I was like, oh yeah, it's been that long. So it was the following year, November, the year before, that I actually had the 2-year suspension. So I was basically just living out my sentence that they gave me. So just continue to be an advocate. So since that happened, and the male powerlifter did get suspended for 6 months for making death threats towards myself and the Premier Danielle Smith, which is basically pales in comparison to my 2 years. But basically I could go back powerlifting in November of this year, but I've actually since quit the powerlifting union, and I'm no longer competing due to the fact that they still allow males to compete at a local level, at the grassroots level. So for that, I'm basically leaving. So
I see. Yep. Fair enough. So I wanted to tell everybody just how successful you are, and you were, because you won 3 years of titles in Canada?
Yeah, so I was on Team Canada for 3 years. I also still hold the North American deadlift record. I was doing very well, and I was really enjoying my sport. And, to have that, taken away by a man, I was supposed to compete against Anne, the male-born powerlifter, at nationals, and I boycotted. I stepped back and I said I refused. So that was kind of my last attempt at a competition.
Mm-hmm. And you've been fighting ever since. So we all owe a debt to you and the sacrifices you've made, for sure. So today we're going to talk about something different. We're going to talk about a more personal story. And I think this will be helpful to people. I think it's always helpful to hear someone's personal story because everyone can resonate with it somehow and learn from it. And it's very, it's brave of you to talk about this too. So I think you're a very brave woman in many ways. And I thank you for coming. So let's start. So how did your childhood experiences at your young age shape your perception of gender and identity in your early years?
Well, yeah, and so you saw my speech at Rebel. I don't know if you see my Rebel speech, but you've seen me speak at Women's Day last year.
Yeah.
The reason why I do include my childhood, I guess, sexual abuse when I was 6 is because it literally has made me the person I am today. And it also was the events that led me into my alcoholism. And my alcoholism led me into sports. And to me, sports saved my life. So
Isn't that crazy? That's so crazy.
Yeah. So when we talk about God and, I don't think there's any coincidences in life. I do believe I was saved for a reason, and that is to be an advocate and to help people and to share these stories. So yeah, I was sexually abused when I was 6 years old by my neighbor, someone who I was close to, someone who I had trusted. And after a period of a year, of prolonged abuse, after the abuse had happened, I actually started to turn myself into a little boy. By things, I would cut my hair short. I would wear boy clothing. I would cover myself up. I hung out with the boys. And after the sexual abuse happened as well, I became very, I guess the word promiscuous, and I guess I was sexualized, right? So I was very interested in all the little boys and little girls. I wanted them to show me their private parts. I wanted to show them mine. And I wasn't like that before I was exposed to that. So at that time, I just knew I was a little girl. I played with Barbies, but I also played with G.I. Joe. But I do know that I wanted to become a little boy because I thought if I did, then no men will touch me. No men will harm me again. And I'm talking about even my father. I mean, he's a retired police officer. I even thought my father would come after me. I just had this conception that men were just going to hurt me and sexually abuse me. So I did everything in my 6-year-old brain to protect myself. Now, when I got a little bit older, 10 years old, when, I started developing, which was so traumatic for me, I think it was the worst part of my life. That's when I found alcohol, and that's what got me through the awkward years of puberty. I could be myself. The first time I tasted alcohol, I was like, oh my God, I can just be myself. I don't have this awkward feeling anymore. I could blend in. I can wear the clothes that I want to wear. I can just talk to boys. I can go through puberty. And it was alcohol that helped me. I don't know where, if that had happened today, I just feel like, someone would have taken me away from my parents or had put me on puberty blockers, something very bad would have happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So thank goodness, even though our childhoods are not straightforward, we can navigate through them if we stay the course, if we stay the course. I think God teaches us, he challenges us and he teaches us and hopes for us to come to our knees in front of him. I think that's what happens.
No, and I firmly believe that. And I do think, and I would never had realized all this, Tammy, if say, I didn't even know what transgenders and all this was until after COVID, and it kind of started popping up everywhere, and it kind of exploded after everything kind of reopened. And then obviously I started getting into my advocacy, and I was like, wow, like that's like, just imagine if that what happened to me was now. And I think of, and this is why I talk about how important Danielle Smith's legislation is coming out soon. which in my eyes protects kids, right? It literally protects children because you have to let the kids grow up and go through puberty. Now, this is my personal opinion. I don't believe there's such thing as a trans child. I do think that's either bad parenting. I think that's sexual trauma. I think that's, trauma that has not been treated. It could be a variety of reasons, but, and that's when your brain is still obviously maturing and developing. So at the very least, let them go up until the age of 18. So with this legislation coming forward, by the amazing Danielle Smith, I think that it's a godsend, really, for the province of Alberta.
She's been a stalwart against the federal government and their radically left policies, and thank goodness for that. I think this is the end of October that is scheduled to pass.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's pretty soon.
Yeah, that's right. It's in 2 weeks, and I don't have the exact date. I'll most likely be flying out to Edmonton when it happens. But yeah, and that's just one of the components is part of like not giving puberty blockers to minors under 16, gender assignment surgeries for people under 18, and then we have the sports component, which obviously I'll be speaking about, which is creating a female-only category, a male-only category. So that means anyone at birth who is male assigned, would have to compete in the male category or in the co-ed category. Because as we know, there are a lot of females and women out there who support men in our spaces, in our sports, so they can go into the co-ed category and support the trans-identifying males if they so wish.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I've discussed this with other people before, and it does seem like a third category in sports was necessary. And so good for Danielle Smith. Now, what's the likelihood that this will be passed, do you think?
To my understanding, it's already been passed. It's just a matter of enacting it at the end of the day. So I don't think it's so much because this came out. She put out a video, I think, last year, and of course the left and global news were like, "Oh my God, it's so anti-trans, it's so hateful." They put a real spin on it, so it's not a matter of if it's going to go through. And it's funny when you hear that. I think Global News put something out the other day about how hateful it was. And I thought, like, do they ever sit back and think, like, isn't it not hateful to force women to share our bathrooms and our locker rooms with men? Is it not hateful to force women to compete against male bodies who have an obvious physiological advantage? And let's look at the sexual abuse, sexual assault rates out there, Tammy. Like, was it 1 in 3 girls over the age of 15 have been sexually assaulted in some way, somehow? Do you think we feel comfortable sharing our bathrooms, which is literally our safe space sometimes in bars or to get away from men, or it's just being forced upon us. And all we're asking for, and all we ever did ask for, was to have our female only. You can always have the universal or co-ed for that option, but have the female only always there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's reasonable. It's reasonable, and it's thought through now. We were reacting, they were reacting. Now we've been thinking it through, you've been thinking it through, and that does sound like a reasonable solution at this point, right?
Well, and the thing is, other provinces are catching on. So we have the BC election going on right now with John Rustad, and I do believe the Conservatives are a smidge ahead. But John Rustad tried to table the same bill back in April when I was there, and the NDP didn't even look at it. They shot it down at first reading. So I do know if the Conservatives get in power, they also will be tabling the same type of legislation. I'm already talking to Regina, Saskatchewan. The municipalities, the Catholic School Board have asked me for my assistance to help them keep men out of their bathrooms and out of their sports. So it's a trickling effect. If one domino falls, Tammy, the other ones are going to follow. It's almost like power in numbers, right? So
yeah. Oh, congratulations! You've come. You've had a lot of development since I spoke to you last time.
But I feel like I love politics now because I'm like, that's where changes are going to happen. It's not going to happen with my federation, so I might as well just dive deep into politics. So,
Yeah. So you mentioned that you wanted to be a boy after your trauma. How did this desire help you cope? I mean, you kind of covered that, but when did that shift for you again? Did you continue to want to be a boy, or when did that shift?
Well, I think that's why, I thought if anyone's going to understand me, it's going to be Tammy. And I think that's why I reached out. You and I we always kind of chatted through email, and I thought this would be very interesting because I think she would kind of understand my point of view here. And I've actually always felt very uncomfortable being a woman. Now it's hard for me to explain, but after my abuse happened and growing up and turning into, I guess, a woman, puberty was very difficult. That's when I think by the age of 18, I was a full-blown alcoholic. I drank my whole life just to get rid of any uncomfortable feelings. Sex was very uncomfortable for me to have sex with a male. And, I have to be completely honest right now. Sometimes I get, not post-traumatic stress, but I do get a negative view sometimes like on men. I'm like, oh, well, they just want to hurt me. Or they just want to use me for sex, or, there's that negative connotation there.
That's interesting. So recently, I was in the hospital and very sick in 2019. I nearly died like over 5 months, over and over and over, till I finally recovered. And I've talked about it a lot, right? I've talked about it a lot because I knew that I had to talk about it in order to normalize it somehow for me, and also contain the story a bit, so it didn't bleed everywhere. Anyway, just recently, I don't know exactly when it was, but it was in the morning, and I just got a glimpse of a hospital room, my hospital room. And I told my husband, oh, I just had a vision. I just had a glimpse of my hospital room. And he said, stay with that. He said, stay with that and investigate it. See as much detail as you can. So I started to, the curtains, I could see the curtains, and then I could see there was a window over here, and the doctors used to stand over here, and I had a table for food, and I played cards with my family. And so I was just imagining all of that. And then I went through all the different places because we were renovating our house, all the different Airbnbs I had lived in, but I was very sick in all of them. But I remembered all of that, which I hadn't been remembering. In fact, I'd forgotten one place that we'd lived because I hadn't revisited it enough, And now I've decided that I have to go walk through the hospital. So I'm going to take a friend with me, and we're going to walk through the hospital. And that should really, really help with my kind of flashback things.
Yeah.
So that was a useful experiment that he put me through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a great idea. And I think that, for me, I don't know, I actually revisited the house, that my neighbor's house. Now, mind you, it's still the same place. I don't know where the person is today, but I ended up taking them to the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board later on in my life. But it's nothing because it's just a monetary thing that they give you, like money. That doesn't make up for, getting my childhood back. But I'm trying to let it go. I'm not going to say I have forgiveness or anything like that, but it has affected me my whole life because, like I said, when I went through puberty, I've never wanted to have children. When I got my period, I felt so dirty and so ashamed, and I didn't want to tell my friends who were boys because I thought somehow they'd want to have sex with me. And I thought, oh, like, I'm going to be more of a woman now to them, and they're going to want to have sex with me. I equated getting my period with womanhood, and womanhood equating to being sexually desired. And then I've never had the feeling, because I said this to my therapist one day. I said, what's wrong with me? And I broke down in tears. I'm like, why don't I have that nurturing feeling to want to have a baby inside me or to give birth? And I've always kind of walked around thinking, what's wrong with me? I always say to my fiance, I have more of a male brain. Like, I don't think the same. I don't act the same as, I don't know, am I labeling females as more emotional? I'm not super emotional, but I'm very, very empathetic. You know, I do cry when I have deep, deep feelings for, you know, the homeless and animals and the helpless. And I do my best to help someone every day. But, you know, when I see my female friends crying and getting so emotional and hormonal, I just don't have that. And I've always just feel like I'm out of place and something's been missing. And I just feel very awkward, and I'll always call myself a tomboy, but I can also wear dresses and look very nice and put lipstick on. But I have feeling that something's missing for sure.
That's interesting, because I'm also not very emotional, but I loved having my babies, and I cared for them deeply. And I'll cry in some sentimental moments, but I'm pretty pragmatic in my thoughts. And when something comes up, even if it's stressful for other people, I can kind of think it through because it doesn't rattle me. But I never had any sexual trauma, except for my dad kept Playboys, and that made it confusing for me. It confused me, and it made me way more interested in boys and girls. Mm-hmm. than I would have been. And so even that was somewhat, it was inappropriate. It wasn't good for me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I remember finding my remember The Joy of Sex, the old book from the 70s. Yeah. And I found that. Yeah. I mean, it's basically just drawings. And I found that when I was very young, but yeah, my abuse got me very promiscuous, and that's why when we talk about this indoctrination of kids, like I just saw some school, matter that they have it between the ages of grades, kindergarten to grade 5. And I was blown away, especially out in British Columbia, what these rainbow clubs are doing. And they're just, it's just unbelievable. And that's why I'm saying, if you open their minds to this at such a young age, especially when your little brain is developing, of course they're going to be confused. And of course they're going to go down that path. Like all I learned about was STDs and how to put a condom on when I was in grade probably 8. So.
Yeah. Brutal, huh?
Yeah. So.
Well, there is healing, though. There is healing. So let's talk a bit about how your trauma contributed to your battle with alcoholism.
How my trauma, well, I mean.
You know, and the trajectory of that.
Well, I grew up in my father was a drinker. He was also, a very hard worker. He was a police officer, on the drug squad in the 80s. So, it was a great home. He worked overtime to take me to Disneyland every year, but he wasn't really present all that much. But I do remember he would have a bad temper at times, and he did drink a lot. So to me, I thought that drinking was acceptable. And at age 10, it was available to me in the house. But I think the trauma, like I said, I know now even, Tammy, like say if I had something come up in my life, and this is probably why I'm not too emotional. I'm very guarded with my feelings because I don't want to relapse. So it's probably why I don't get too emotional. Like I think the worst thing that could happen right now is my father could pass away. And I've already put myself through this scenario 20 times over in my head. I've done role playing, even to think, okay, here I am speaking at my father's funeral. How am I going to do it? I need to be strong. I've set myself up for it because I cannot drink ever again because I know if I do, I will die. So, so I think that's why, again, I'm cut off emotionally right now, or I have been my whole life. But I think with the trauma, I've just always used alcohol or drugs as an escape for any kind of uncomfortable feeling that I have. I never got to I never had sober sex. I've never been in love until recently with my fiance. My first time I was in love was when I was 40 years old. So, you know, I was never in any loving relationships. I had no self-respect. I'd never had any self-love for myself. And it played a role in almost every area of my life. I was still able to hold down a job for about 18 years until I got deathly sick. And that's when my doctor gave me the diagnosis of basically you have 1 to 2 years of living if you continue to drink. My liver was shutting down. I didn't see the effects it was having. And that's when I attempted to take my own life by overdosing. And I ended up in an ICU unit on a breathing tube. And that's when I woke up that day, that's when I was like, okay, April, are you going to live or are you going to die? You have 2 choices here. And that's when I decided to put myself into rehab. And I guess the rest is history. And then I started powerlifting when I came out. So.
Yeah. So you went through Alcoholics Anonymous, did you?
So first
I did. Yeah. I went through Al-Anon. So same thing, 12-step.
Yeah, 12-step program. I went to rehab first at Westover Treatment Center. And then
And what was that? What did they teach you there?
Oh, well,
in rehab, how do they expect to help someone there?
Well, I say this all the time because this is what British Columbia needs. They need more treatment centers. This is what London, Ontario needs. That's where I live.
Toronto.
Toronto is in-house treatment. We can't keep just giving safe needles and a bowl of soup and a blanket and a place to stay. We need those are Band-Aids. We need to give in-house treatment and then outpatient for up to 6 months afterwards. Because guess what you learn in rehab that we don't have as addicts and alcoholics, and that is purpose, and that is hope, but it also gives you structure. Structure literally saved my life in rehab because I wake up every morning and I started off by doing some chores. I made my bed. Guess what? Making my bed, I still do that every day because it starts my day up with something great that I've done. It takes a tiny little 2 seconds to do, but that's something positive that I've done for myself. And
it's beautiful too. It's a bit of beauty because the bed is smooth and orderly and right. It's a bit of beauty.
Yes, orderly, and I love that word. That's what I had. That I did not have order in my life, and I love that word, Tammy, because that's one thing that was missing. So when I say structure and order, when I went to rehab, I loved it. I did not want to go home. I was like, "Can I stay here, please, another couple months?" Because I was getting 3 meals a day, which I wasn't doing before. I was doing chores. I was going to meetings. I would have therapy with one-on-one counselors. We'd have group talk. You're meeting other people just like yourself and you're connecting. And then at nighttime, we would have our AA meetings. And sometimes people would come into the rehab from outside that were also dealing with it. But it was, every day was different. Some if people had a problem with smoking cigarettes, we'd have like a quit smoking group. We'd learn about different drugs and how they affect the body. It was just amazing. And, I give back to Westover. I'm auctioning off my Team Canada tracksuit right now, and all the donations go to Westover Treatment Center because, they've just done so much for me and other struggling addicts and alcoholics. But
wow, that's great. That's great. It sounds like it was very well set up, and it was, like you said, it was structured, and it was also giving you a program you could learn and then take with you. And it gave you a community. That's why you didn't want to leave, right? Gave you a community.
Exactly. So before that, I was literally drinking, it's a very lonely disease, addiction, because I was literally sitting at home. Even my fiance, who's been with me for 8 years, we broke up for 1 year because he just couldn't handle watching me kill myself. He just didn't know what to do. He was more like the tough love version. My father, he stuck with me, like he didn't leave me. But my boyfriend, as far as my partner was concerned, he loved me, but he loved me from afar. He still kept tabs on me to see how I was doing. And as time went on, when I came out of rehab, and I was literally not even caring about what he was doing, and I was just into my sports, and I got my twinkle in my eye back and my glowing skin, and I looked really healthy. He's like, wow. And he was still kind of cautious, but then after 6 months went by, he's like, you know what? He was so grateful to come back to me. I didn't ask him to come back, but he wanted to. And he was just, we're so happy. We're getting married next year. Did I ever?
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. And that's something I never thought that I would do in my life would be married.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So
that's wonderful. That's healing. That's definitely healing. Oh, I have all kinds of marriage advice when you're ready.
Do you want to? You can marry us, Tammy, if you want to.
Oh no, I can't.
I know. I wish you did.
I haven't taken my online priest course yet. No.
I'm surprised.
But I would be happy to talk to you about what we've done in our marriage that's been useful, because it's worth knowing.
I would love to. I would love to hear that. Yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So what do you think now? You're going to get married. What do you think about that? That's a traditional move, right? Marriage. That's an old tradition that a lot of people aren't doing anymore. So how are you going to structure your wedding? Have you decided how you're going to structure your wedding?
So my fiance has been married before, and he has 3 daughters from a previous marriage. When we first met, he said, "Do you ever want to get married?" I said, "No." And he was like, "Great, because I don't want to get married again." Now, I said that answer when I was in my active alcoholism, because I thought
he was hurt. And he was hurt, right?
He was hurt. He was just coming out of a divorce. So I was like, oh, and I just thought I was not worthy to ever get married. And I just thought, well, it's just too late now. But as time went on and I started developing my self-love and my self-respect, and I thought, I'm very, not deserving, but that's something very important to me. So when I asked him, would you like to get married? Is that something you'd consider? He's like, well, I thought you didn't want to. I said, well, put it this way. It's not so much for you. It's kind of for me to show to me that, first of all, I choose you. And to me, that's very important, because I went through so many relationships, not relationships, but I just, I would just have one-nighters or I just didn't, it was nothing important to me. And I said, by choosing you, that shows to me that I love myself and that I have self-respect and that you are so special to me. Not only are you my best friend, but you're so special. I just couldn't imagine my life without you. And that takes a lot for me to say. Not nowadays, because I've never met a man like him, but to me, it's about, I was trying to explain to him, it's more for me. So he understood what I was talking about. And, anyways, yeah, so we're getting married.
It's something you want. Women aren't very good about saying what they want. And often they become disillusioned and resentful because they expect to be understood without actually asking for what they need.
Yes. And I'm not going to use the word old-fashioned. I believe in marriage, and I think too many people are lazy nowadays, to the fact that they can just go, well, guess what? It's not working. See you later. I can just leave. And I don't like that. You see it all the time.
No,
and
it's hedonistic, short-term pleasure. It's not good.
No, and it goes along with this, even just with the whole instant gratification society that we have going on. It's just not, it's not about, and again, I hate that word.
It's immature. It's immature. I think it's just immature. We have an immature outlook on life these days, and we got to drop that and go back to what's good and true and orderly and full of rules.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just, I mean, so anyways, when we started planning, so he proposed to me a couple months ago, and it's funny for someone that didn't want to get married again, he's really involved in planning the wedding. So, it's
That's nice.
It's going to be a nice ceremony. We love Muskoka. That's our favorite place. So we're going to have an outdoor wedding out on the lake up in Muskoka near Huntsville. So.
Oh, that's very nice. It's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me more, coming from Alberta, if I go towards Algonquin Park, the pine trees in the park remind me of the mountains.
Oh, nice.
And so there aren't that many places in Ontario that remind me of Alberta, but the forest, because it's a pine forest, I feel at home there.
I know it's so beautiful up there. I guess every time I go up there, I just feel like we actually want to buy a cottage up there for our retirement home. So that's where I want to kind of live and die. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And Huntsville is I shouldn't even advertise it because I don't want it to grow so much, but it has good restaurants. It has a theater, like a live theater. You know, it's a real town. It's small, but it's a real town, and it's got a great butcher. It has a great butcher shop there, and it's all right. It has some of the big box stores, so it's big enough to have Home Depot and some of the big box stores, but they're kind of out on the highway, so they're not right downtown. They have a very cool little downtown. It's very nice. I like just walking on the main street is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think you're making a good choice.
Yeah, I don't. I spent most of my time as a child growing up near Bracebridge, actually. So I spent all my summers up in Muskoka, not so much in Huntsville, but I actually just came back from Kitabala. I don't know if you've ever saw any concerts.
No, I don't know where that is.
It's near Port Carling. It's near Port Carling and all that area.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, Huntsville has really grown. It's so beautiful. So, yeah, and we're literally just going to have like a nice open barbecue in the backyard. Very simple. I'll probably be barefoot, to be honest, in my little white dress. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun to think about, hey?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the planning really that's fun. The moment is fun, but all the inviting people and deciding how you're going to do it and everything, there's real adventure in that.
Yeah, it can be a little stressful. A couple of his daughters from the previous marriage don't believe in our views with the whole, but they are captured, the ones in university right now. So she's taking gender studies. So, I mean,
oh dear.
So all my fiance ever says to them is, you know what, you guys are entitled to your opinion and we have our opinion. You know, we don't force it on them, but, you know, we just don't want any hateful words, like, you know, because they actually think we're very transphobic. And I was like, well, do they not understand that we're literally fighting for their future and their daughter's future? But again, it's such a hard age at 21 and 19 that, again, it's the school system, right? So, and TikTok and all these other things. So,
TikTok is terrible, and women are the ones who watch it.
Oh, yeah, and that was another topic that I put down, is that it's just appalling how many women actually are supporting these men, and they're just so brainwashed that they actually think these men are women, so they think, oh, I'm doing a good thing by fighting for women, but they're literally just supporting men coming into our spaces and to our sports. So if you asked me who do I actually battle this out with, and who is my biggest enemy in this fight for fairness in sports and for spaces, it's women. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, compassion has gone. The thing is, you know, compassion was for babies, really, and the elderly, let's say, but the vulnerable, right? Compassion is for the vulnerable. And
Yes.
men aren't vulnerable.
No.
You don't have to have compassion towards men. That's wrong. It's wrong. It's a misplaced emotion.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them, especially on the left, I'm not going to label all of them, but a lot of them are. Now, this is my theory. I'm sure I'll get a lot of negative comments about this, but I do have a lot of female conservatives that agree with me on this one. But and the reason why I discovered this is because it's actually going through my stuff and then discovering self-love and self-respect. Every day I look into the mirror, I get my validation from myself. I don't seek outward validation. Sure, everyone likes to get a pat on the back or, hey, you're doing a great job. But we have a lot of women in general that are virtue signalers that just kind of latch themselves onto these ideologies. And, whether it's Black Lives Matter or whatever human rights cause it is, sometimes they come up with their own ideology. And to me, like we have a person here on council in my city that said, you know what? I want to get away with no lawnmowers. You can't cut your grass after 6 p.m. And it got shut down. But I thought, do you not have anything better to do with your time than to introduce this? And I thought, you know what? If people invested more time into themselves, whether it's go to the gym, get active, get healthy, eat well, go for a walk, maybe do some volunteer work and help the homeless or, help addicts or join even in a group, like a badminton group. Put your time into those things because that's what's happening is these women don't have the self-love and they don't have the self-respect and they want that pat on the back for joining these little groups or these little human rights groups or these ideologies. And that's merely what it is. And, I see it all the time, Tammy. So
yeah,
if they had self-love,
that sounds accurate to me.
Yeah. You can ask Jordan on that one too. I'm sure he would agree.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Well, we can get comments and see what people think.
Yeah.
So how long ago did you quit drinking? How many years?
So I'm 5 years sober, actually. September 19th will be my 5th year.
Well, congratulations. 5 years. That's getting to be some time.
Yeah, I was actually really happy that I passed the 4-year mark because the rehab counselors basically said that the 4-year mark is about 80% will relapse at the 4-year mark. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I was really, really keeping tabs on that 4-year mark. But I'm actually really happy because I went through probably one of the most stressful times in my life with the whole federation. And, just being attacked by, trans activists, they went after my job. They tried to get me fired. They took my exhibit down at the museum. Just kept on going after me.
I didn't hear about that. What exhibit at the museum?
Oh, that's right. I didn't tell you about it when I last saw you. I was actually part of an exhibit here in my city in London, Ontario called Resilience London. So they chose 80 people in London, Ontario that showed strength and resilience. So the museum curator contacted me and said, I love your story. I saw that you overcame addiction and became a Team Canada powerlifter. We'd love to have you in this exhibit. So I said, wonderful. So I gave them my Team Canada photo. I also described my story, which was, I was sexually abused as a kid. I used alcohol to help me with my trauma. I am a grateful recovering alcoholic and I have a wonderful job, with the city. So, which I'm proud to say, I have the best job in my life right now. I'm very proud of that. And basically I was at this exhibit for maybe 2 nights. All my coworkers were there supporting me. Everyone from the city of London was there. It was a beautiful night. There was actually 2 transgenders in the exhibit as well. And 2 days after that, they learned that I was suspended from my federation and they decided to take 2 of the transgenders in the exhibit wrote to the museum and said that I was transphobic, and they took my exhibit down. So, which was really, really hard for me because all my coworkers, my boss was there, and they all supported me. They thought it was just absolutely like appalling that it would take that down, because to me it just kind of said, well, guess what, April, you were vulnerable. You opened up and told the world about your suicide attempt, your abuse, your alcoholism, and making Team Canada, and they just kicked it to the curb like it was nothing. And because a man's feelings are more important. And I was nothing but respectful. Like, if I was transphobic, I would not even been in the art exhibit. I was very kind. I actually knew two of the transgender people in the exhibit, and I said to them, hey, we should take a group photo together. Like, I was nothing but very sweet and kind, and they literally reported me and said, she doesn't deserve to be here. Now, it's up to the board, right, to make that decision, but, you know, it doesn't really surprise me coming from an art museum, right? So.
Right. They're woke as well. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So how has doing God's will and sharing your story impacted your healing journey and your sense of purpose?
Well, I mean, it helps me every day, Tammy.
How do you do it? What's your how do you manage it? Because it's an everyday thing, isn't it?
Well, I think, first of all, I love being I'm a very selfless person. And I think I've always said this, even when I was in my addiction, Tammy. I live downtown where there's a lot of homeless people. But even in my addiction, I remember running out and buying sandwiches from the 7-Eleven and going out and dishing them out to all the homeless people and giving them Tim Hortons gift cards and just going, I have to do something. To me, life is all about, we're on this planet to help each other. Like, we need to help each other. That's just the way life works. And when my mom passed away, she was like my best friend. But before she passed away, she said to me, April, if you're ever sad or down and you're missing me, when I'm gone, go out and do something good for someone. Because you know what? When you do something good for someone, you get out of your own head. You don't have to.
That's smart.
And you're not worrying about yourself, but you're focusing on that person and you're helping that person. And I have remembered that for 20 years now. She passed away when I was 25, and that's my motto. And I would rather, you know, if I had $10 in my pocket, it's going to go to someone else because I don't need that. So I just, it helps me stay sober by helping other people, especially, people in recovery for sure. But just to help someone, it's a win-win because you feel good. That person feels good. I just can't believe more people don't do it, you know?
Well, I think, you know, when you're trying to follow God's will, the first two closest commandments or rules are, you know, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. So you're doing both those things. You've learned to have self-love, and now you're giving back all the time. It's amazing, the transformation.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. I love that. And so for me, I think I told you, I recently lost 40 pounds. I cut out sugar from my diet and I went on the carnivore diet for a while.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You look good. You look very good.
I was like, oh, you look so different.
Your face looks different.
Oh, yeah. And it's just been so amazing. My boyfriend, or my fiance, he was on it too. And it's just, I had so much inflammation before and I was so puffy. I have no inflammation. I am never in pain. I feel like $1 million. I have so much, it's just amazing. And I lost like 40 pounds within, God, I think 6-7 months. It was just unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy? Wow.
Yeah. And I get, so I was on the carnivore. Now I'm doing modified because I do like my vegetables. But definitely no grains, no sugar. Absolutely not. But so what I do is like, I really like to pump that out there and help people, because there's a lot of like, there's one of my coworkers that I said, hey, you know, do you want to lose some weight? Because he's always complaining about like his weight or this and that. And I said, I can help you. I'll put you on a free program. I will give you a diet. Like I write it all out for you. I'm not going to ask for money. Like, I want to help people. I want to see people succeed.
Yes.
And just like with women that like, they're like, oh, I wish I could lose 10 pounds. I'm like, if I can literally come out of the ICU unit on a breathing tube and change my life and lose 40 pounds and become a Team Canada powerlifter, you can drop that wine bottle at night and lose 20 pounds. So I should be like Tony Robbins, like the female Tony Robbins, and just be a motivational
You could do that. You could be a motivational speaker.
I would love that. That's like my dream job right there. So.
Oh, well, just keep that thought.
Yeah.
Be careful what you ask for. So you've mentioned different levels of feminism. How do you view the current state of feminism, especially when it comes to protecting women's spaces? Yeah.
Well, like I mentioned before, my biggest enemy in this fight is women. And when I get this question all the time, but it's always by men, and it's, where are all the feminists? So I'll post something online, and the men almost get angry. They're like, well, you created this problem. And I'm like, whoa. Like, first of all, I didn't. And now you're talking about feminists from 1960s. Look, so which layers? I feel like there's different layers. There's different types of feminists. I actually wouldn't even consider myself a feminist. I'm just literally stepping up and protecting women and girls, which really is the role of any man, real man out there. Because remember back in the day, women and children first, where did that expression go to? Because I don't see that happening nowadays. Because these men who are calling out the feminists, I actually reverse it on them and say, well, it doesn't help by blaming women for our problem going on right now. So what are you doing to keep those men out of the little girl's change room? Are you stepping in front of that door and not letting them in? Are you calling it out? Are you wearing a Keep Female Sports Female t-shirt? What are you doing? Because I find it a very misogynistic comment for them to just put it out there. Or I feel like maybe we've had a negative experience with a woman in a past event, right? So, but I do think there's different levels of feminists. You have your hardcore feminists, that I really don't associate with a lot of there's radical feminists, as you would know, Tammy. I don't try to associate with them as well, because I don't want to go down that path. I think really I'm just a woman that stands up for women's rights and fairness and protects kids. You know, I'm not, but I just think there's different parts of feminism that, I mean, you have women that are supporting these men, but then they think that they're doing the right thing for women. It's a very confusing thing, but I just think there's layers upon layers of different types of feminists. There's not just one type of feminist. But I will say that, women right now currently are basically the wall between me or anyone getting, anything resolved as far as getting the men out of our spaces. So even though it's a man problem, because it's actually the men going into our spaces, it's actually the women that are enabling it, enabling it happening.
So I have an interesting thought that I'd like to discuss with you. So when men are with men, there's a pecking order, and they know it. So they know where they sit in relationship to other men. But women don't have that. Women don't have that. There isn't any kind of pecking order. And, you know, if a man misbehaves with other men, they will set him straight physically, right? They can punch them.
Yes.
But we can't do that with women. So how do we bring in these radical females if, like, if love and attention isn't working, I guess maybe you just like continue that, but there is no like parental guidance almost. There's no boundaries. It's hard to set those things up. What do you think? Do you have a different explanation?
Well, I think it's so hard with women. And again, I can't relate because again, I don't get too emotional. But I think what happens is that women get very emotional about something. Like, so it's hard to talk to them. For example, a couple months ago, remember the first attempt, the assassination attempt on Trump? I tweeted, I said, from my personal experience or my own opinion, I put this out on Twitter. I don't think that Trump should have female Secret Service agents. I said those ones that he had were horrible. They weren't even the same height as him. They were frantic. And I said, women are way too emotional to be in that role. And this is coming from me, who's taken policing. I come from a police background in my family. I'm also built. I'm pretty jacked. I'm strong. I'm 5'11". I said, even I would not be suitable for that role. Well, did I not get attacked on Twitter by a couple females who actually were some of the females that support my sports stuff, but they didn't like the fact that I called them out for being emotional. And they took it so personally. And I think that's what happens too with women. They can take everything personally as an attack. And they said, well, no, men are way more emotional. Most rapes are done by men. I said, okay, now you're talking about testosterone and now you're talking about aggression. Like, we're talking about two different things here. There's emotional and then, so I think women, yeah, it's emotion. That's what it comes down to. You can't sometimes get through to them. Even if you do say something, they just fly off the edge like that. And there's no reasoning. They just get glued. They got tunnel vision. And I'm not saying all women, but sometimes you just cannot sit and have a conversation or see eye to eye and have an open discussion and see both sides about certain topics when it comes to something to do with feminism or women in general. Yeah.
So after I was really sick and I was better, Jordan was still very sick. And I went to Al-Anon and I learned the 12 steps and I read a bunch of books and everything. And I learned it. And I grew a community of people I could speak to. And it was good, right? It was good because it was during COVID and it was very isolating time. So it was actually a great time for me to go through this process, But since then, I started a meeting. I started a private meeting and my sister is in it. My sister-in-law is in it. My friends of 30 years are in it. Lots of people. My mother-in-law was in it. She's passed away, but I'll always remember she was in this meeting. And we can always come together and speak with each other. And their relationships are better. Their marriages are better. We, in our society, I think because people don't go to church anymore, we don't have any guidance on how to live a mature life. And the 12 steps will give you that. So it's a really good basic program so that you can follow, you can learn and you can follow it. And it gives you boundaries and self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how emotional should I be right now? Or if I am emotional, maybe I shouldn't be talking right now.
Yes.
Let's wait until the emotions calm down before I speak.
Yeah, and
That'd be a good thing.
Is it worth it? And another thing I do love about the 12 steps is making amendments to those. So a lot of when we talk about a lazy society or not a mature society, people don't know how to say sorry. And if they've done something
and change their behavior.
Mm-hmm. like, I don't know how many times where, I mean, even people close to me, I was like, no, there's consequences to your actions. People do not want to take accountability. I mean, I think I sound like a drill sergeant, and I'm like, am I being too harsh? But people, like, I can't believe it. Like, the most people around me, they don't say sorry. I don't get, some people don't say thank you. And again, the whole accountability and consequences thing is just not existent. So I thank my father, because I grew up with a very good father, that installed a lot of my morals and how to treat people, like respect. And because to me, those things all have to do with self-respect, but also have to do with respecting others. And that goes back to the Bible as too, like you said about thy neighbor. So, I mean, yeah.
I had a good father too. I had a good father too, and he had an insurance business, and his office was right beside the bar. And so at the end of the day, you know, around supper time, the men who had been in the bar all day would come out. And in the wintertime, because where I grew up, some days it was 40 below, it was very, very brutally cold. He would put them in his car and take them home.
Oh, nice.
My dad was a love your neighbor kind of guy, and he didn't have people, he didn't hold people in different esteem. Everybody was kind of the same, and needed to receive the same kind of communication and goodwill, you know. So he also did for me. He gave me a good understanding of how I should communicate with people socially, but he also gave me courage. He helped me to take on challenges that might have been too much for me. And now I know that that's probably God. Mm-hmm. But it was the best part of my dad, those things, you know?
Yeah. And I think that people like our fathers, especially nowadays, that's really lacking right now. And like I just added a new sweatshirt to my merchandise line on my website, and it says, "Real men XY protect real women XX." So I thought, well, I'm going to put a sweatshirt out there for the real men that they can wear to show that they protect women and stand up for women in sports, because, yeah, it's just, well, thank God we had our fathers, right? So.
Yes, we are. Yeah, thank goodness I had a good father. I am grateful for him, and I was lucky before he passed away to be able to tell him those things, you know.
Yeah, I know, that's great. Yeah, and I think that's what the same thing is with you know, my fiance. He's a very good father, and he does the same thing. He tries to install the same values in his children. It's very tough right now with, again, like we said, with the universities and what they teach you at school, that a lot of kids are going to be you know, easily influenced, and they're going to kind of make up their own minds based on that. But I do think that, you know, they will come around as they get older.
Well, you guys can, you can show them, you can show them a different way, a good way, and they'll see it. They'll see it. They may not like really take it in right now, but it'll be there, and they will also be there, and it should make some impression on their inner being. I think their inner being. So when they get in touch with their inner being, I imagine and especially because they had a good father, I imagine they'll come around.
Yeah, and I think one of the kids was asking, like, "Oh, where did you go last weekend?" That's when I was at the Rebel Live conference, and he was saying, "Oh, well, April met the premier," and they're like, "Oh, who's the premier?" And so I think in their heads they're like, "Wow!" Like I said, I hope that what you're telling them, me meeting the premier and doing this legislation and talking about it, I think that has to jog their brains to know, okay, well, I think what April is doing is a good thing. You know what I mean? So, and getting all this news and doing all these interviews. I don't get any hate. Like, Tammy, I haven't heard the word bigot or turf. I don't know. I'm probably over a year now. I think those words have faded out.
Good for you.
I said turf.
Well,
Turf
maybe
is so 2023.
That's right. Yeah. Who knows what it is now, but you're not getting any of that either, so that's a good thing.
No.
So how did powerlifting, because you wanted to continue powerlifting and you didn't get to, but how did taking on powerlifting, how did that affect you? How did that bring about recovery?
Well, I loved the sport because, there was something very empowering about lifting heavy weights. And I've always been athletic. Even when I went through my whole life of drinking, and I do touch on this in my speeches, is that even though I did drink, my father always had me in sports ever since I was 5 years old. So I always thank my father, because really in the end, I feel like my father was the one that saved my life, because if I didn't have that backbone of striving to work towards something or a purpose, or even like the muscle mass, or to make my body healthy and to try, because there was times where, when I was older, that I would drink all night, but I would go to the gym the next day. I would do my workout, but I would throw up after. And even my trainer would say, "Oh, God, you reek like booze." But I was like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm trying to make an effort. I want to live." So I still tried. And every sport that I did do, I always did so well in, like even track and field, basketball. I do have OCD, so I get quite obsessed with whatever I put my energy into. I just kind of get super obsessed, and I want to be number one. So when I took on powerlifting, I just knew I would train every day, and I was in my friend's gym. Everything was closed down. I actually got sober right before COVID hit, in September 2019, because if I didn't, I would have surely been dead, because I would have drank myself to death in my home. So I can't believe the timeline of how things happened in my life, because that was only a couple months before they shut everything down. And so I just knew I had to powerlift every day in my friend's gym. And I just did that. And that's why when things opened up, I was so strong, and I literally qualified for nationals. I went to worlds in my first year, because I was just like, the more I lift, the healthier I get, and the longer I live, and I'm not going to let this disease take me down. And so now even I still need something, like I'm doing my advocacy, but I might get into boxing. There's always some type of sport that I want to have in my life. I'm still doing like working with weights, like I'm doing more of like a bodybuilding workout right now. But I would like to compete in boxing someday, get more actively involved in that.
Oh, I see. That's cool. Well, I'm doing Pilates.
Oh,
I used to do yoga. I do Pilates, and I weight lift in my Pilates class.
You have to tell me about Pilates, because I need to know about Pilates, because that was the one thing I asked someone the other day. What is Pilates exactly?
Yeah, well, I have a very good teacher, and she follows me on Zoom. So I get to do, so I just do mat work when I'm on the road.
Oh, nice.
But when I go to Toronto, I use the reformer, and it's so, it's perfect, because you have weight, eccentric weight and concentric weight. Well, eccentric weight and concentric weight. And so your muscles are they're fully developing and fully getting strengthened.
Oh, good.
It's very good. It's very good. I like her because she has a yoga background, and she lifts weights all the time herself. So she knows she'll put me through her workout if I have the weights, And so I kind of like that. I like the lifting weights, though. I think especially as I get older, it's really important that I stay strong, and that I stay so that I can always get out of a chair and always get out of bed and always sit on the toilet, like with the things you got to do, right?
Tammy, I love that you're saying that. I used to go around to the schools here in my city and teach the high school kids. And I said, the one thing you have to keep doing when you're in like whatever age is always lift weights. And I love that you said that because I use that as an example. As you get older, I would suggest to any woman just keep weight training because of you want your muscle mass there and your bone density, right? But what I do, a little trick is, so when you're sitting in a chair or if you're on the toilet or if you're in the bed, what I teach the kids is don't use your hands when you get up. You just get up without using your hands because that really works your hip flexors. But the muscle building that you're doing with the weights and your Pilates is actually helping you just to get up, right? So that's great. A lot of people don't understand that. And you're not going to have a broken hip. You're not going to fall and break, so it's really good that you're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I started yoga when I was 13 years old. And so and then I did so much yoga during COVID. I hurt my Achilles tendon and then I couldn't walk. And I was sent to a physiotherapist. But one of my husband's friends said, my wife went to her mother's funeral and she climbed a mountain to put her ashes up. And her knee, when she came down, her knee was just not in good shape. And she went to this Pilates teacher and she seemed to help. And I said, okay, I'd try it. And I've been going to her ever since. So first of all, she fixed my Achilles tendon and then she strengthened me. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And
amazing.
That's great that you can do that while you're on the road. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. I'll send you her name.
Yeah. I need that in my life.
And you can look her up.
Yeah. I need flexibility. Yeah. That's one thing I lack. I can lift weights all day. I like to do a little bit of cardio, not too much, but I used to go to a stretch therapist, a couple times a week, and he would literally stretch me out because honestly, I have no desire just to sit there and do it. So if someone actually stretched it for me, I was like, it's wonderful, but I do need to work. Like, I wish I got into yoga because I could really benefit from that. So.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't do it as often if I didn't have a teacher. So it's very good that I have a relationship with someone who says, when do we meet again? When do we meet again? Let's schedule the days. And I want to, so I say yes. And then I just have to make it there.
Accountability.
And so I feel accountable, there it is in my schedule. I have to get online and get my mat ready and put on my clothes and get to it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't train without, I have a gym in my building here and I really like to have a trainer to say, hey, get here tomorrow at 4 p.m. So, yeah.
Yeah. You can pray for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what do you think of the fact that you're 40 and you didn't have any children?
I'm actually 48.
What do you think about that?
I'm 48 now.
48.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you look about 40. now that you've been on the carnivore diet.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I know. Everyone's like, what'd you do to your skin? I'm like, honestly, sugar kills your body.
It makes your skin smooth and wonderful, doesn't it?
It really, so my skin's a lot softer, but I have hardly any wrinkles, but I actually take beef tallow. I buy this special beef tallow moisturizer, and that's what I use for my moisturizer is beef tallow. And it's phenomenal. My fiance loves it. I give him a little facial every night and put the beef tallow on his face. As far as the kids' questions concerned, I'm not going to say I have any regrets. Of course, now that I'm in love and I'm with a really wonderful man, I always think about, what if we had children?
Yeah. What if? Yeah.
The what ifs. But I have two nieces that, that I love very much. I don't feel, again, I've never had that feeling of wanting to hold a baby inside my stomach. That has always made me very uncomfortable. Again, it goes back to getting my period, right? Anything to do with the female reproductive system, it just makes me very uncomfortable. And it stems from my sexual abuse because it started after that. I can remember even just going for physicals with my doctor. I just didn't like anyone touching me down there. And that's even with a female doctor. So, if I could have a free baby without going through all that, not saying adoption, but I just say I didn't have that. I'm a very nurturing person when I'm with babies, but even when I see people in the grocery store with babies, I'm not like, oh, look at that cute little baby and goo goo gaga. I'm not like that, but with my niece, I'm very loving and I love being around her. So,
yeah. Well, I think you're doing such a service to society that also, because really when you have kids, you're doing a service to
yes.
humanity by having a child. So you're doing that kind of work.
Yeah. And I highly commend, like, I think mothers are just so completely like amazing. Like, even my friends who, work full time and they go and take care of their kids. I'm like, I just think you're so amazing. Like, I said, I don't know how I could do it. Like, how do you work a job and take care of kids? I just don't, it's a full-time job just taking care of your kids. So, no, I love it. I've just never had that feeling and I love kids, but, yeah, it just wasn't in the cards for me. If the sexual abuse never happened, then I would have gone down a completely different path. I would never probably have maybe I would never have become an alcoholic, and I probably wouldn't even be in the job position, or I would have gone totally down a different route, because I would have probably picked maybe I would have gone to like university instead of college, or, I could have been a completely different April, put it that way. So
that's the thing, we make choices at every juncture. We make a choice. And that's the thing, is that nothing is written in stone, and we're not forced to go into any direction. We make those choices.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we have to have what do you say? Compassion for ourselves. If we think we made choices that we made differently later, we have to have compassion for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that I think self-forgiveness is the hardest one. Like I always say, if I died tomorrow, would I be okay if I found out I was going to die? And I'm like, you know what? I'm very happy with the life that I have led. Sure, I wasted a lot of years drinking, but I'm very happy, especially in my years of sobriety, with how my life has been with being an advocate and helping people, finding my fiance and being in a loving relationship. Also, having a loving relationship with my father and my brother. I do have a lot of regrets with not being able to be sober before my mom passed away. That's something that I just, I will never be able to change that. That's, I hope I get to see her, one day again and be able to be with her. And that's the one thing that does hurt, that it still hurts me to this day. So if I ever do cry, that's probably the one thing that does make me cry, is that it's too bad she didn't get to see me sober before she passed away, because she wanted that so, so bad. And she went to Al-Anon just like you did, because she so desperately wanted me to get better. And unfortunately, I dread to think that maybe her last vision of me was me with a beer bottle, because she had brain cancer and she got really ill. And so, I have to work on that self-forgiveness part.
I imagine if she went to Al-Anon, she was probably at peace when she died. Because it teaches you that you can change the things, to have the courage to change things you can. And really, if you can't change it, to let it go. So. Yeah.
And I said this to my dad, like, after she passed away, and I said, do you think I caused her illness? Like, I thought, did I cause that cancer? And I thought, with the amount of stress that I put her through, because she was always very athletic. She was beautiful. She was fit. She would run marathons, and she just, by freak, got this rare form of brain cancer. And I said, Dad, I feel like the stress, because, you know, stress can cause diseases. I'm like, I wonder if she got sick or she just was like, you know what, I've had enough. I can't help. And she was one of God's messengers and was just like, I can't do anything more here. Of course, I thought about all these different scenarios. We actually went to church all the time, my mom and I. We would pray the rosary together. And, you know, I do remember one day in church, the priest came up and put his hand on my mom's head, and he actually said that he would take away her cancer. And I've always remembered that. And I got so angry at the Catholic Church for the longest time after she passed away. So I had a lot of anger, but I think that's, you know, part of the grieving process, obviously.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. Denial usually, then anger. I can't remember all the steps, but
Bargaining.
eventually forget. Bargaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, my mom also passed away before I had cancer, before I went through the 12 steps, before I had a personal relationship with God. My mom passed away before all of that. But I have tried to make amends with myself as a young girl. So I often go and I speak with young women. I speak to them and try to help them. So I know to say yes to those opportunities because I know that I was not the best person for myself when I was young. And I wonder, I've also thought of going into hospices and old folks. I used to go into old folks' homes. My sister is dying of the same thing my mom died from. She has dementia as well. And she's in a nursing home now. So we're going through it twice. This is the second time. And my sister was 7 years older than me, so she was a bit like my mother. She was old enough. So what do? With you, my sister came along with me when we were touring, and she already had dementia. I invited her, and she took a plane by herself, and I thought, she managed. She managed to do it. Good for her, And then I said, what are you going to eat when you get here? And she said, I'll eat what you eat. I said, okay. So then for 2 weeks, she just ate meat. And then we went to my son's wedding. And my sister-in-law told me years later that that was the best she'd seen my sister in years. So even 2 weeks of eating meat cleared her mind up, and so then when she got real sick, I thought, because she went back home and she just ate a normal diet, and now she's in the hospital, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, should I have done something more? What could have I had done? And maybe I could have saved my sister. And I've been thinking about that, and it's been troubling and heavy on my heart, And then I thought, I can be grateful for her coming with me and showing me and trying this diet I asked her to try, and showing me that it was effective. I can be grateful for her, and now I can share that message in her spirit, because it was her that did that. She gave me the words to be able to talk about this in that courageous trip she took to join me on my travels and to eat the way I ate, And I think, she was living with her boyfriend, and her kids were there, and it was anecdotal. What I did was kind of anecdotal. I mean, I didn't have any peer-reviewed papers to say this is going to work. So it was not something that I could change. And so I've been able to forgive myself and to forgive my family, because we didn't know enough to be really helpful. It's hard. It's hard to lose people and to come to terms with that.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's why, to me, I think that's probably the worst case scenario going forward that could happen to me, is losing my father. And I think that's because of the loss of my mother. I've already kind of set myself up for, I don't know. Do you believe in manifestations? Like basically to me it works. People call me psychic. I'm like, no, I'm just manifesting. And, but I'm not,
what do you mean by manifesting?
well, I'm not saying manifesting my father's funeral, because I'm not trying to, I don't want my father to pass away. But I'm almost setting myself up to basically, so I'm kind of getting myself prepared, right? So when my father does pass away, that I will be okay emotionally, and I want to be strong. So I want to be strong for him. I want to be strong for everyone involved. But when I talk about manifestations, I find that when I think about something in my head, it's something I want or to achieve. For example, my old job that I had for 18 years, I hated it. It was toxic. I worked at a casino as a surveillance agent. It was the most toxic place I could work at. And the doctor, addiction specialist, said, April, you need to quit this place. You're not going to get sober if you keep working here. So every day I would visualize myself, almost getting fired from my job, like going to the office and then walking out of work with my box of belongings, like I got fired, and walking out of the building. But it was such a free feeling. I was like, oh, this is wonderful. But guess what? It actually happened. And I was like, but down to the specifics, it's almost like it has specifics to it. No, I didn't get fired. I got, we did a little deal here, right? Because they knew I was sick with alcoholism. So I worked something out with them. But still, I kind of planned it to happen, I think, in my head. But I believe it seems like whatever I think about in my head, whether it's a person or something I want to achieve, it usually comes true or it happens. So
I think often we're inspired to have those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
We're inspired to have those thoughts, and we don't even know it, but we are doing God's will. If it does happen, we are doing God's will. That's what we're doing.
No, I believe that too. And the same with, if you take note of even certain dates, for example, my mother passed away it's coming up October 28th, 2001. And that's the exact date that my, now fiance got married to his first wife, the exact same day, exact same year. So I almost look at it as a death and a rebirth, because I thought, well, this is, it's kind of, not coincidental, but I observe these things, because people kind of walk through life and you're either open to God's messages or you're not. And a lot of these people just think it's a coincidence, or they don't even notice. They have their blinders on, or they're not awake. I guess that's the word. They're not awake. And
well, you're asking, right? You're asking.
Yes.
You're asking, is this, what's going to happen? I'm in this job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going anywhere, and I'm uncomfortable here. It's toxic. I don't like it. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And so then you start to get images of what might happen, and then lo and behold,
yeah,
that's what happens.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think that is, life can be that way. I think life can be that way.
Yeah.
We just have to be really careful that we're listening to the right messages, and that we're asking the highest of beings, and not asking to a place of resentment or power or self-pity or self-righteousness or any of those things, that it's straight up asking God.
Yeah. And I think that, for example, now my focus, is so much to keep female sports female, and the whole spaces thing, that when I saw John Rustad in British Columbia, I was in tears when I said to him, you know what, John, you are a wonderful man. He doesn't even have children. He doesn't have daughters. And I said, you're very honorable for creating this bill. I'm so sorry it got shot down. But I said, I know you will table that bill, and I know I will be back. And the last words I said to him is, when I come back, you're going to be the next premier of British Columbia. And he said, no, April, like, no, I don't. I go, no, mark my words. So I actually wrote him the other day and I said, I've manifested it over and over again, John. So get ready for it. But even just me,
good for you.
My dream was to be at the legislature buildings, and now I get to go to Alberta. Like, I'm probably going to try. So you talk about crying. I'm going to try not to bawl my eyes out, because this is everything that I've been working for and fighting for, and it's come to fruition. And I can't believe it. Like, it's going to be probably the most momentous day of my life, to be honest. So I'm so excited.
She's a wonderful person, Danielle Smith. She's a wonderful person. She's a wonderful leader.
She really is. When I met her, she asked me questions like, she wants to know all about you as a person. She was just asking how it affected me with the sports. She's beautiful. She's such a magnificent woman. Like, I honestly, I love Pierre. I've never met him, but I mean, I would be very happy if she was our prime minister.
Well, she can line up. She can line up for the next conservative leader, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows? Maybe she will.
Yeah.
Maybe she will. So now that this will be like one of my last questions. So now that you're sober and you have spiritual growth, what message would you like to say to others who've endured similar struggle?
Well, I think the main important message to anyone that's struggling with sexual trauma and anything to do with addictions or mental health is one of my sayings is, your secrets will keep you sick. So please talk to someone about it. If you're sitting at home and feeling quite alone, trust me, there's going to be 1,000 or plus more people that have gone through the same situation as you. And that's how Alcoholics Anonymous was formed. It was formed, I think, in the late 40s by two alcoholics. One was in a hospital bed. A friend went to go visit him in the hospital, and they had a one-on-one conversation and they connected. That's literally how Alcoholics Anonymous started, was just by two people having a chat and relating and connecting. So if you are struggling, please reach out to a friend that you trust. Even there's 1-800 numbers, mental health crisis numbers, but always go to someone that you can trust and tell them, like, if you're dealing with sexual trauma that you've never talked about. It's very common, even with men. A lot of men sit with these feelings and they feel very ashamed to say that they've been sexually abused. They're thinking, well, I'm a man, I can't talk about it. That's a killer sometimes. It also raises the suicide rate as well in men, right? So just don't think you're alone. Please communicate. That's the number one thing I'd have to say. Don't be ashamed, because, we've all battled some type of form of trauma or addiction. And it doesn't have to be drug addiction. It could be food addiction. There's people addicted to over-exercising. So there's a lot of addictions out there.
Overworking. Sure. There's
overworking.
What do they call that? Yeah. There's all kinds. It's good for everyone, actually, this 12-step program. I always tell people that I think that it's worth doing, and I would like it to be in the schools where they offer it to grade 11 or 12 kids. Alateen. So just to give them some real foundational help, so that when they go out, they can make good choices. What's best for them and what's best for their families.
Yeah. And I think, do they have Alateen where you are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They have it here in my city as well. It is good. Yeah.
No, they have that. I think they have that quite broadly. I think it's offered in many, many places. But it's really all the same. It's all the 12 steps.
Yes.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And a lot of people, I had a girl reach out to me because a lot of people, besides the whole sports thing, a lot of people ask me, hey, April, I'm struggling. How did you get sober? Or they'll say, oh, I tried to quit drinking. I drank last night. And I was like, don't feel horrible about it. Just get back on it again. And that's another thing I would say to people is like, if you are trying to quit, binge eating or sugar is a big one. Sugar is a huge addiction. And I mean, I was addicted to sugar for the first little while. I didn't realize, it's no different than cocaine, to be honest. So I, if you do relapse, and this is something I have to remember myself, is get back on that horse again and keep trying, because it is a one day at a time thing to do. But don't beat yourself up over it, because you will not get better if you just beat yourself up, because relapse is a part of recovery. It's normal. Obviously you don't want to make a huge habit of it, but just get back on it and just keep working at it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think God challenges us. He challenges us so that we can wake up even more.
Yeah, and as far as that's what I was going to say with AA. One of the girls said, well, I don't know about AA. I have a problem with God. I don't believe in God. I'm like, you don't have to believe in God to go to AA. The higher power can be anything that you make it. It just has to be a power greater than yourself. So for the first while, when I was very angry at God, I didn't even want to hear God, anything. And I used Mother Nature, the birds, the trees, the environment. That was my higher power, because I thought, well, that's greater than me. This is the whole ecosystem, and someone created that. Sometimes it was my mother. I would pray to my mother. That was my God. That was my higher power. So you can make it anything you want. It just has to be a source greater than yourself. You have to give up that power, right? You have to surrender. And yeah.
Yeah, that's right. No, those are really good messages. And I prayed to my mother too for years. Then I realized I was praying to what was best in my mom. And I'm Catholic, so that would be Mother Mary.
Yeah.
And so I know that I was always praying to that motherly love that can be there for us all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
So thanks very much.
Yeah.
It was good to see you.
Yeah.
It's really good to see you. You're looking great, and you have great plans in the future, and I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, well, I think I'm just a lot happier now, and I'm glad I quit the powerlifting, and I'm just focusing on this advocacy, and like I said, this new diet really I was so miserable at that weight. I think I was 232 pounds. Now I'm like 185. It's just unbelievable. I would highly suggest to anyone, like you said about your sister, about the brain clearing and the fog. When I quit sugar and all the grains and all the carbohydrates, and I started eating the carnivore diet, I had such crazy focus, just sharpened focus, and just could think, and no brain fog. It was like, I love it. I'm also experimenting a lot with not magical mushrooms, just different wild mushrooms like reishi, maitake, oyster, but a lot of lion's mane, because it's a nootropic, right? It helps you with your memory, but because mushrooms themselves are a whole other food group, and they're just packed full of nutrients, right? So I'm really big on mushrooms with my meat when I have my diet. So
they go well together, don't they?
Yeah.
I had to learn when you fry a mushroom that you don't move it. Like, you put it in and you let it brown. Don't move it at all. And then you can turn it, because if you move it, it'll start to lose its moisture.
Moisture, yes.
Yeah. And so then it doesn't taste as good. So you have to put it in butter and fry the mushroom, and then turn it over and give it a good browning. And they're delicious.
Yeah, it's like a scallop.
I think they're delicious.
Yeah, it's kind of like doing a scallop. You just put it in there.
Oh yeah. That's right, exactly. I love scallops
Me
too when they're
too.
cooked like that. And I get the restaurateurs to cook my scallops in tallow.
Oh, we have tallow here. I love, yes, delicious. Yeah.
So if you go out, you can ask for that, right? You can ask them to cook those kind of things in
Um,
tallow. And so,
it's so hard to go out to eat because I'll go out with my friends and I'm always like, what oil do you use? Because I refuse to eat anything with seed oils in it because that causes great
me too. Yeah.
inflammation. And there's a lot of people don't know this information. And so I'm always that picky eater, like, what are you, what's your food in and what's this and what's that? And so I literally go to the farmer's market every weekend. That's the only place I get my groceries because I only get my meat, some vegetables, a few like local ingredients, and I'm done. That's it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you look very healthy, so it's working for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I'll see you
Yeah.
again if you're in Toronto. So,
I will be in the summers mostly.
oh, great. Okay. Next year.
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds
That's right. We're going on tour pretty soon.
Yeah.
We're going on tour until April. So
Oh.
we're busy all winter.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we'll set a date next year then.
Hey, so you're in London, Ontario?
Yes.
I think I could get you a ticket to our show if you wanted to come to our lecture.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you. I would love that.
I'd love that. I'd love that if you'd come.
Oh, I would love that.
Okay. I'm pretty sure we're going to be in London. I'll find out the date and I'll email you. And I'll put you in touch with my assistant.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea.
He will put you in touch with our tour manager and we'll get you tickets and backstage passes so we can say hello.
You're killing me. That would be a dream, another dream come true. I love that.
Oh, good.
That would be amazing.
Let's do it.
I had no idea you're coming here. So.
Well, yeah, we're coming there. Well, let's see. We're there in November and we're there in February, so I'm not quite sure when we're in London, but I'll let you know.
Oh, wonderful. I would love that. So that would be wonderful.
Okay.
I could surprise my fiance because he's huge. He's a huge fan.
That's right. Yeah. You can get 2 tickets.
Oh, great.
For sure.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Good.